Welcome back to part 2 of 3 for my Luck Be a Landlord symbols tier list. So without any more ado, let's jump right in. Alright, before we go anywhere, dud, of course, run killing. The dog. Dog is niche. I think it is slightly below the coin in niche because there's one item that really buffs the dog, which is Quigley the Wolf, but not really that great, right? You have to, if you're hoping for one item, that's not great. The dwarf, on the other hand, I personally, I know I am a big fan of doors, even when I shouldn't be. So I'm gonna probably put him a bit higher than I should, right? With objectivity, the dwarf is probably slightly worse than the big urn, right? But I like the dwarf a bit too much because I like to give him drinks a lot more than most people would, a lot more than I even should. Egg is kind of in the same camp as chicken and chick. However, I think it's actually a slightly better than chicken and the chick. So the reason behind that is the egg itself, it'll turn into chicken the chicken. However, there are items which really buff the eggs, right? Eldritch Creature, it's not run winning. I'm sorry, but it's really only run defining, and it defines the run with the hexes. Now, Emerald is just in the same vein as like the gems, right? The gems all kind of define your run, but they don't win that run for you. The farmer's in the same camp as like the chef. They do very similar things. 5-sided dice is a very, very nice support item, seeing as it's 3 per spin, just on base. Flower is not detrimental, but it is probably one of the nichest items out there because you have to go for the flower build, and that's it. All right, so Frozen Fossil, definitely nowhere near where the Eldritch Creature is, right? Probably slightly better than the Card Shark, simply because the Card Shark, the Card Shark actually gives you money immediately versus the Frozen Fossil takes time before it comes off. Okay, General Xeroth is 100% run. Depends on when you get him, right? If you get him early enough, if you get him late, he can be just that final push to the end. But in general, I would say he defines the run, right? What did you do? Oh, I made a cultist run that at the end, I fed them all to General Xeroth, right? I made this run work, but then at the end, I just fed it to Xeroth, right? It's one of those run-defining moments. Geologist is the first symbol that I'm going to put in run winning because of how many symbols there are that actually buff the Geologist, right? That the Geologist gets double buffed whenever he gets something like the ore. He gets almost triple buffed whenever you get a big ore. No, he gets more than triple buffed when you get the big ore. Golden Arrow is also up there in run winning. And multiplying everything by 4 is just ridiculous. It's amazing. If you ever get like Geologist or Golden Arrow early on in the game, you can basically just say, oh, I'm done. I win the game. I have scaling. We don't have to care. Golden Egg. Golden Egg, I don't think is that great, right? Compared to everything else, probably around where the apple is, right? The Goldfish, it's really that it's just a one-fer, and it's not great. You have to look for what? You have to look for the fish tank, and that's it. Golem is actually not a terrible item. It looked on the surface, right? It's just 5 ore, but if you dig deeper into it, it's 5 items that you're just getting for 1. It's a 5-in-1 item, right? So that means that you can skip more often than you would have you would normally be able to by just getting the gold. The Goose, it's not great. I find it better than the Flower. There's not much to say about it. Suits are run defining. Hexes, this might get controversial, right? I think that Hex of Destruction is honestly not a bad support item because it does thin out your deck, right? It really thins out your deck, and it makes it a lot easier to, well, you just have to get lucky, right? Okay, Hex of Draining, I believe this one is. This one, it's a niche item. There's nothing more to say about it. You get it early, and hope that doesn't, and then you get rid of it. hope it doesn't take too much money away from you. Hex of Emptiness. Hex of Emptiness, once again, probably along with the Hex of Horde, Hex of Emptiness, or whatever. You guys get what I'm saying. They're about the same stage, because losing money versus skipping symbols, you don't mind skipping symbols when you get to the late game, but in the early game that really sucks. Hex of Hoarding is the same idea except in reverse, right? They are just flipped. Hex of Midas. Hex of Midas is interesting because it really, I think, it's in the same stage there. Simply because that single hex, actually, on its own, the Hex of Midas, I think, is slightly above, right? I think it's at the top of niche. Because it does give you a lot of items. It fills up your reel with not terrible items, because coins at least are able to synergize with a lot of different symbols. Or not symbols, but rather items. Hex of Tedium. Well, Hex of Tedium, I don't know, Hex of Tedium is really something, it's hard to gauge this, right? Because it's hard for us to gauge whether or not our luck is coming or getting gotten like deleted by the Hex of Tedium, or if it's just simply, oh, we just got unlucky, right? So because of that reason, I'm just gonna stick with the other hexes. Now, Hex of Thievery. I don't know why this exists, right? Sometimes it gives -3. Like every third spin gives -3. It gives a what? Let's think. 3, 3, -3. On average, that's what it's gonna do, generally speaking. So on average, like 1.2 a spin. Is that great? No. Like, it's almost detrimental for the long-term plan of your game, right? You have 70% of the time you get 3, and 30% of the time you get -3, which means that that's 2.1 minus 2.1 minus 9. That's, yeah, you only get 1.2 coins to spin on average, which compared to other hexes, it's just bad. Okay, and Highlander, not run defining. It's a support item because it has no synergy. Honey, once again, it's going to be a support item. It good value, but it's probably a bit higher than the egg and the golden and the golden apple, because it can be eaten by the bait, right? It has one other thing. This is the hooligan. My bad. This is the billionaire. The billionaire is actually much lower on niche in my opinion, because you have to kill him, right? The hooligan, on the other hand, should be stuck there. And this one is the hustling capsule. Hustling capsule is a pretty nice support item. Item capsule, same thing. Most of the capsules I think have a very similar power level. Joker is definitely run defining. Not as run defining as the suits themselves, but definitely a nice support to that run. Okay, key. Key is a really nice, in my opinion, it's a nice support item, right? Because you get to open like lockboxes and everything with that. So onto King Midas. Where do I put King Midas? King Midas, obviously he's run defining, right? But is he run winning? Well, if we're going by the standard where if you see this item early into the game, you pick it and you win the game, that is King Midas. If you see him like spin in the second red cycle, and you'll take him, and then you'll win, because you'll fill your deck with just coins that he can buff. Maybe you need one other item to actually synergize with it. So because of that, actually, I can only put him down. I'll have to bring him down to something like here, because run defining, right? He can't win the game by himself, versus the golden arrow and the archaeologist or geologist really can. Lockboxes. Lockbox is. I mean, it's when you take it early, it's really nice input. Like you get a bunch of money. The capsules I think go with themselves. Actually, Lucky Capsule I think is a bit better than the rest of them, because you can get one of these run defining items. Okay, Magic Key. I don't see it being much better than the key. I'm not gonna lie to you. I see the key and the Magic Key to be very similar items, especially when you don't get super lucky on the lockboxes. And let's go with the Magpie, right? The Magpie, you need synergies. for it to work. You need either birdhouse, you need tax evasion, you get checkered flag. If you get those together, you have a strong magpie. But without it, it's not great, right? It's not great. It's middling of the road. It's not terrible, because you need some reason to get it if it's taking money away from you every turn. So its return's not bad. Martini. Martinis are worth 3. And they're not run defining, right? They require the dame there with them. So it's about the same level as the honey, maybe a tad worse, because the dame is more rare item than the bear. Matryoshka dolls. I haven't been taking Matryoshka dolls that often anymore, because they're not as good as it seems. Are they as good as the 5-sided? I don't think they are as good as the 5-sided dice right now, because if you don't get something like the time capsule, it just takes a long time for that to become worth anything. Okay, now continuing on, the mega chest. I mean, mega chest is probably, I slotted in around here. You need the key or magic key to actually open it. Midas bomb. It's definitely run defined. I think it's at the top of run defined, right? When we think of a run, if we see a Midas bomb, we basically just want to take it and hope that it doesn't kill us, right? It defines the run, whether it wins or dies, it defines it through that. Milk is the same idea here, but the reason milk is better, much better actually, than cheese or candy is because you start with a cat in the reel. Because you start with the cat in the reel, it means that whenever you see that milk to start with, you can just grab it. Versus the cheese and the candy, it requires you to get one extra symbol. Okay, mine. Mine's a really nice support item. There's not much to be said about it. It pumps out ores. If you have a geologist and you get a mine, it wins you the game, right? Easy, simple as that. Miner, I'm sorry, man, you're just not great, right? You depend on the ore and the big ore. You're probably slightly better than the billionaire, but not really. Monkeys are very interesting. Monkeys, I think, are better than the coconuts themselves. Or is it better than the urns? I think it's better than urns. I think it's better than the cat. I don't think it's better than the milk. Moon is definitely run defined, right? It's pretty simple to see. You get a couple different symbols, and you get a moon, and that could just win you the game. It's as run defining as Midas. I think it's more run defining than Midas. Well, Midas defines the run by itself, no matter what. And the moon takes a couple other items to find the run with it. The mouse, mouse doesn't really have that many synergies with anything, right? So I had to put you there. Miss Fruit. This one might also be controversial. I don't think Miss Fruit is I don't think Miss Fruit is run winning. I think it's only run defining. There aren't many symbols that I actually think if you get them, you're going to win the game, right? Like even here with the pirate, I don't even think pirate's run winning, right? Pirate's only run defining. And that was part 2 of 3 for my Luck Be a Landlord symbols tier list. All positions are still subject to change before the end of part 3, but feel free to leave angry comments about where I've ranked everything. Part 3 will be out soon, if it's not out already, and have a nice day.